And we have begun recording with week 11 of object-oriented programming. All right. I was hoping this would activate automatically, and it has. All right. So if you go on your phones or on your laptops to polev.com/NigelF, I would like to know, what is a good song you've been playing this week, at home in the quarantine? I am running out of music, and I love to hear suggestions about new things to listen to. I love pop music. I've played Doja Cat's Say So on repeat so much that I need something new now. So recording. All right, thank you everyone for sharing. And I'm gonna move on now to the next slide, if it will let me. Looks like, all right, cool. All right, cool. Okay, so just want to tell us, we're gonna start talking about our final project. So the final project will be due May 5th. That's 3 weeks away from today, and we will either have live presentations or screencast presentations. We're gonna figure out whether I'll have you guys present live on Zoom or if you're gonna record short videos that we will interact with in class in another way. I'm still doing research into figuring out the best way for us to interact with each other's projects. Ideally, by next week, you will have completed 2 to 5 activities and have them completely functional in your app, and just be prepared to do peer evaluation for each other's projects next week. So that is the kind of ideal goal that I'm setting for us to complete for next week. Um, Congratulations, everyone. There will be no take-home or in-class assignments, right? And so I'm done assigning those. And so I'm asking to have all of the assignments completed by April 27th. And because of my own lateness and this whole COVID-19, there will be no late penalties as long as you get everything in by April 27th. So that's 2 weeks to get it all done, in case anyone has any questions or is waiting on me to respond to them in an email. All right. So we're gonna continue class with our survey of the day. And I'm gonna click on this link to see our survey of the day. And I wanted to ask you guys a couple of questions. The first is going to be, what do you hope to gain with your final project? And so what I'm asking in that is just trying to figure out, what are your goals for this final project beyond this class, right? So for some of you, it may just be the learning experience, right? Building an app. For others, it might be building up your portfolio. For some of you, it might be related to your IEP, your final project, your master's thesis for this program. And some of you may be trying to start a startup, right? And get something, or maybe you just want to impress your family and friends. I'm just interested in what your motivations are. And so please answer that question there. For today's class, I'm asking, what is most important for you this class period? And I want you to check 2 that apply. We can have time to work on the final project. We can review, recycle review Firebase, review authentication, review how to GitHub and share projects, or something else other that you can fill in. The next question is, what topics would you like me to review or make a video for next class? So I can either spend the next class reviewing a topic, or I can make a video reviewing something, just trying to get a feel for what people are most uncomfortable with and where I should be spending my energy. And then last but not least, just would you be interested in being a TA for this class next year? And it's just yes, no, or maybe, so I can get a feel for the numbers if anybody's interested in being a TA for this class next year. Full disclosure, most likely I will not be the professor for this class next year, but the 2 people that I have in mind are excellent. And I think working as a TA for this class can be an excellent opportunity for you, not only to improve your programming skills, but also to build up your resume and to, perhaps even become the professor like I did. So, all right. So please fill out that survey accordingly, and I will give you a moment to do that. Normally I would play some music, but I haven't mastered that skill yet on Zoom, so you just have to do it silently. Okay. All right, so thank you so much for filling out the survey. I'm gonna come back now to our slides and share my screen. Share. Sharing this, no, wrong button, present. Okay, so today's agenda, we're gonna learn some new code as well as review some old code. I guess specifically the authentication. We're gonna see some new coding resources, and we're going to work on our final projects. All right, so the new code we're gonna learn about today is the recycler view from Firebase. We're also gonna learn about how to load images to and from Firebase, and we're gonna see the tab view tutorial. All right, so the recycler view from Firebase, we have a link here to a new slideshow. We're gonna learn about the child event listener as opposed to a value event listener. So that's gonna be the key thing of today's, of this topic with the recycler view with Firebase. Okay, let's come to present mode here, and it's loading slowly. Voila, so recycler view with Firebase. I just want to clarify to everyone, or like to let everyone know that everything I'm gonna go over, the code is right here in this GitHub link for the project that I'm going to be reviewing, so that you have the code available to you. Okay. Main difference. So when we talk about the recycler view with the Firebase as opposed to locally, right? We're gonna see that the main difference is that the adapter is gonna take a reference rather than an array list, right? So when we talk about recycler view, we know that we have our recycler view, we have our view holder, and we have our adapter, right? Here, right, in the old recycler view, we see that the president adapter takes a president's array list, right? Whereas in the Firebase recycler view, we're gonna see the people adapter is going to take a people reference, right? And so remember that when we talk about Firebase, right, we have the database and then we have the reference. And so now we're going to be grabbing the information from a specific reference within the database. So we're going to review really quickly how to build a recycler view and then how to build a real-time database, just really quickly, right? So the first thing you would have to do for building a recycler view with coming from the Firebase database, right, is set up the Firebase database, right? We need to connect the app to Firebase, add the real-time database libraries, and then configure the rules. Luckily, this is pretty easy using the Firebase Assistant in Android Studio. Then next, what we would have to do, right, is we're gonna have to set up the recycler view. And so we have to create the car view, create the Java class. Let's say we're using presidents, right? And then set up the recycler view in the XML. Next, right, instead, we're not gonna make an array list because we don't wanna store the information locally. We wanna get the information from the database. We're going to attach the recycler view element to the recycler view object, like before, create the view holder, create the adapter, and then in the adapter, we're going to create a constructor with a database reference, not an array list. And so let's take a quick look at what that means. And so sorry, what's the last thing? And then that's how we're going to put it all together. Okay, so let's take a quick, let's take a moment to come back over here. I'm going to, you know what, I'll show you all the code at once. We'll review everything here and then we can go through all of the code. So combining those two steps, right? Those two things, we're setting up the RV, recycler view, with the Firebase. Again, the first steps are setting up your real-time database using the Firebase Assistant in Android Studio. And then we're going to set up the recycler view, right? We're going to import the libraries, get the car view, create the Java class, set up the recycler view. Here I have the old the libraries that you have to put into your app's Gradle, but we will need new ones that I'm going to update accordingly. But the Firebase ones are going to be done for you automatically, along with the the project Gradle. It's also going to happen automatically with the Firebase Assistant. It's just going to be these two, the card view and the recycler view, that are a little bit different. And I believe it's just 29.00, but I need to double check. I have it in the other video with the recycler view that I updated. Okay. So for this project, what we're gonna see is we're just gonna use a very simple card view where we have the president's name and the years they were in office, right? And so we see this as a relative layout with a text view in a text view. We're not going to do images just yet. We also have our president class, right, where we have the member variables right here, name, info, and photo res ID, even though we're not using this photo res. And then we have two constructors, right? We have a constructor with all three member variables, and then with just two, just the name and the info, right? And then we have getters, right, for each of the member variables. We're going to set up the recycler view in Java, right, where we have the adapter equals new president adapter, president's this, but we're not going to use president's this, right? Instead, we're going to use the reference from the database, right? So we have to make the view holder, make the adapter, and then in the main activity, we want to make sure that the database reference always is getting information from a specific user. And so here it looks like I'm saying we have to be logged in. And so let's take a moment to look at, let me just see really quickly. Okay, yes, let's take a moment to look at what's happening over here. So this is gonna be us reviewing a little bit of authentication before we get the chance to review. So we'll like discuss it first and then we'll review. So we have this code right here. And notice it's in the main, it's in the onCreate activity, in the main activity, right? We know this because we have onCreate, and then which layout are we loading up? The main activity. And then if I come down, we see that we have this auth listener, and we're saying new fire auth state listener, and we see the code happening in here. My question to you is, what is happening in this code? And so what I wanted to do is create a Google Doc for everyone to go to, but of course I have forgotten to do that. And so I am going to give everyone a moment to, in their chat, go into breakout rooms, and in the chat, I'm going to have you guys write out what you believe is happening in that code. And so I'm going to break you up into two groups, 7 and 7, and yeah, that should be that's what we're gonna do. So I want you to answer that question in groups together and to put your answer in your group chat. All right, I'm gonna create these breakout rooms. I'm going to open the rooms, and I'm going to make Melissa a co-host, and I'm going to pause the recording. Okay, so both groups got it right for the most part. Let me come to share my screen. Share my screen. All right. If I come to present, we can see, right, that the code here is looking to see if you're logged in or not, right? So we have this on-off state change, right, saying, hey, if the user is not here, right? If the user is here, if the user is not null, right? Then we're saying, hey, make the reference based on this database, that get reference, and it looks like the reference is based on the user, right? So each reference in the database is gonna be based on the user's name. Then we go, okay, cool, get the president's adapter, set the adapter to user reference that child presidents, and then we go to the main activity for the context. Whereas, and then we set the adapter for the recycler view. In any other situation, if the user is not logged in, we go, hey, go straight to the login activity, sends a new intent straight there. All right, cool. So let's take a moment now to look at this code in practice. I'm gonna go to recycler view, the precedents. Yes, and I need to share my screen with my Android Studio, if that's, well, maybe I'll just do my desktop. Okay, and hopefully everyone can see my desktop and they can see the project. And so what we're gonna do is we see, and this is again the project that is in the GitHub link. We have our main activity here, right? And we just went over this method over here, right? Where we have this auth state listener, right? And so to review, we have established not only a Firebase database as a member variable, but also a Firebase authenticator, right? Which they just call Firebase auth. Now, on that Firebase authenticator, we have created an auth state listener called auth listen, right? Auth being for authentication, listener. So I'm listening here for authentication. Have you been authenticated? Are you a user? Are you logged in? That's what this object right here, the auth listener, is doing, right? And so we see the first time that auth listener is going to be initialized is here in onCreate. We say, hey, new.firebase auth state listener. Then we go, okay, cool. We're going to have an anonymous class, as we often do for all of our listeners, right? And in this anonymous class, we have one method that we need to implement, the on-auth state changed, right? And so here I'm saying, hey, Firebase user equals Firebase auth.get current user. Then I'm saying, hey, if the user is not null, right? Then I want you to load this Firebase up. Any other way, I want you to go back to the login activity, right? And so if I run this code, hopefully no one is logged in. I'm gonna have it load up now. It's running, it's installing, it's launching, it's successful, and right over here. So nice, right? Here it's taking me to this page, nothing, where I'm sorry, the login page, because no one's been logged in. Okay, so I'm gonna say 321@123.com, and I'm gonna try to log in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let me see. I don't think this is a login thing. So yeah, this has not happened yet. So I'm gonna sign up. Voila. And so now I've been signed up and I have here my Firebase app. Sorry, my RecyclerView Firebase. And so what I can do is I can add a couple of presidents, right? Because I have this add method, which is going to be this add president. We've seen this method before where we generate a random integer. And then if the integer is one of these three, we then create a new president. But rather than adding it to the array list, right, we go user reference dot child, right, because we want to name the reference presidents. And then I go dot push. So I'm creating a child from the president's reference, and then making that reference a random string, right? And I'm setting the value to be my new president, whatever the new president was based on the integer. And then I set the adapter again so that the recycler view can grow. And so each time I do this add, I get another president here. Now, what's cool about this is that if I sign out and then I come back to 321@123.com and I go to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and I log in, all of my presidents are still there because, again, this is being stored in the recycler view. Let's say I sign out and I go into a different account. I'm gonna go to 123@123.com and I go to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and I log in. I have all of these presidents that were already there from that account. And so what's nice about this is that you can save information to different accounts, right? Okay, let's review this a little bit more. I'm gonna go to pause this, and we're going to take a quick look at what's a little bit different here. And so, like I talked about before, here within the authentication state, right, we see that we're creating this, we are setting our adapter for the recycler view based on the user reference.child precedents. I wish I could show you guys this reference in the console, but I realized, wait, no, I can't. I thought I lost it. So, silly Nigel. I'm like, always forgetting these things. And so if I come into my login lesson app, which one was it? So here is my example. I think I just created a new one. So nope, that's not that one. These are some hard-coded users, presidents. Okay, well, I'll maybe just make a new account to make the point of this. All right, so I have my user account right here, and then I said .child presidents, right? And then after .child presidents, I said .push, so I could create a new child and have a list, right? So my array list is coming from here. And so what I'm gonna do right now is I am going to, let's see, wait, is it, I'm like, there's that one. There's this one. I think this is the one I just created with the 4, right? And so if I come back to the app over here, and of course I stopped running it. All right, let's see. Is the app running? Voila. So I have, this is the old one. Let me sign out of this and let me go to 321@123.com. And I go to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I log in. And so right now I have 1, 2, 3, 4 presidents, Obama, Clinton, Clinton, Clinton. And so if I come over here, I see that I get my 4 presidents, Obama, Clinton, 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 right? Note, right, that each of these references is saving an object, right, that can then be loaded back into the recycler view via the Firebase via the recycler, via the adapter, the president's adapter. And so if I come over here and I click add and add, it added Obama and George Bush now. I come back over to this side and voila, look down there, I have 2 more, Obama and George Bush. And so what's really powerful about this is gonna be that if you have any kind of object, right, that you wanna store in a recycler view, right, you don't necessarily have to do that in an array list. And in fact, I'm gonna encourage you to store it in Firebase so that when the person logs in or when a person is accessing the your app from different devices, right, they all can have access to the same information. Before I move on, does anybody have any questions about that? Okay, all right. Well, let's just take a quick moment then to review some of this login stuff. So it looks like over here, I have my off state listener, right? Which is checking to hear if someone has been logged in, right? And so we have this method here. If the user is null, sorry, it's not null, excuse me, keep the app running. In any other situation, start the activity going back to the login activity, right? And so if I go to my login activity, relatively simple, right? I have here my email to edit text and my password edit text. So let me sign up. I already signed out, right? And I'm here. I have my email edit text, my password edit text, right? Then I say Firebase auth.get instance to initialize my Firebase auth, right? So the same way we sometimes have a Firebase database, right? The first step is create our Firebase auth, Firebase authenticator. We go get instance. We have an instance here now. Then I can just copy and paste those login and sign up methods I had from before. Do I understand everything that's happening in this method? Not everything, but we don't have to because we have this login code given to us, right? It takes in the email, it takes in the password, and then it says, hey, the authenticator, sign in with email and password. Isn't that wonderful that we have a method just like that? Takes in the email, checks in the password, and says add an onComplete listener. So the onComplete listener, right? Anytime we add a listener, we're doing an anonymous class, right? This onComplete listener has a method here called onComplete. And then we have saying if it's successful, the toast saying it's successful. In any other situation, we have another toast saying that it's not gonna be successful. And then it finishes, and that's the end of the complete listener. We also have the sign up method, which again, the key part for you is to include the information about the email and the password. And then we have a method called create user with email and password. All of this being, right, methods from the authenticator, the Firebase auth class. And so we have an instance of that class here that we, again, initialized with the get instance method. And then the method here is handled for us. The last method that you need to know is going to be the sign out method, right? And again, this is going to be coming from the authenticator. So if I go to auth, I go Firebase auth right over here. I initialize the auth with auth, Firebase auth.get instance, and then I'm saying auth.sign out. The tricky part is going to be this code in here, right, where we go, hey, if I'm not logged in, how do I get my user to go back? How do I get the code to send the user back to the login page? And so in here, I have this embedded with code for loading up my Firebase. But if you didn't loading up my recycler view, but if you didn't have that, right, you would just need to go, hey, if the user equals null, start activity, this at this, and then you don't need this else statement over here, right? We just have an if statement, just a conditional. Okay, let me come back to my slides, which are over here. Nope, not sure. Nope, that's not the slideshow I want to be on. Okay, so reviewing in the slides here, we see that the view holder for the recycler view with Firebase is going to be the exact same as the recycler view holder without the Firebase. Because remember, the view holder is just the object for the card view, right? It's just connecting the card view XML to the Java. What changes, however, is that we have the adapter, right? So in local, right, we have a constructor in the adapter that takes in this president's array list, right? However, we're going to be adding a child events listener in the adapter to listen for the children in the Firebase database. So here, again, I have my local constructor, right, for when we're taking in an array list. However, over here, I have my adapter constructor for when I'm taking in a database reference, president's ref, right? So notice here, I have this context. I still have my empty array list. I'm not sure if I need that, but I have that there. And then highlighted in yellow is the code that is important, right? We have president's ref dot add child event listener, right? So up until this point, we've been adding value event listeners, but here we have an add child event listener. At this point, right, we should be familiar with the fact that, oh, if I'm adding a listener, right, I have this anonymous class, right, and I have to implement certain methods. And so for the child event listener, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 methods that you have to implement. Now, luckily, when you go to add child event listener and you go new child event listener, hit enter, all of these methods should populate, but then the body of the method was where you have to write in, right? So we see that for on child, on canceled, there's nothing in there, right? But for the rest, it looks like we have stuff in. So for on child added, right? Data snapshot, string S, I'm saying, hey, president P equals snapshot.get value. What kind of value do I want you to get? President. Why? Because remember, in my recycler, in my Firebase, all of my, where's my Firebase? Where? Looking for my console. Here we go. In my Firebase, right, all of the children of presidents are president type objects, right? So before we've been loading strings into our app from Firebase, but if you want to load something else, it's perfectly fine. All you need to do is make sure that your data snapshot, right, get value, you're calling the class that you want to get. Sorry, you're calling the class that you want to get. Then I'm saying presidents, right, dot add, right? So we're adding it to the array list up here. Interesting. And then we're saying notify data set changed. Excuse me. All right. Then we also have on child removed, which is the same thing, except for instead of add, you have remove. And then for if it's moved, if we're going to have it move within the array list, you have notify data set changed. And so what I seem to have forgotten is that you do still need the array list within the adapter so that the adapter can hold the information from the database somewhere. And so this is a lot of information, but we have a little bit of time to master it. So don't freak out if it's confusing, because even me going over it right now, I am confused again. I'm like, oh, okay. Let's continue. Present. Why did I talk about all of that? Okay. And so I should have had you guys do this first and asking, what is this code doing? And so I'm going to give you a chance to talk about it just because it's a little bit confusing. And I think this would be a good moment for us to take a break, if anything. And so take a moment. I'm going to put you in your breakout rooms again to discuss what that code is. I just kind of went through it, but try to talk about it with each other. And then I'll come check in the room to make sure it all makes sense. Just to reiterate, right, I just wanted to say in that, again, when we talk about the child event listener, right, this is an anonymous class that is just listening for the children of a particular reference. And so if I come back, I'm not even sharing my screen. I'm like sitting here clicking stuff. Can't even see what I'm clicking, right? So again, the child event listener is just listening for changes in the children of a particular reference, right? And so if I come over here and I look at this reference here, presidents, right? We see that presidents has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 different children. And so what the child event listener is doing is saying, hey, if something goes down with one of these children, I'm listening for that. What should I do, right? And so if I add someone, if I add a new child, right, I'm saying, hey, figure out who that child is, add the child to the array list, and notify the data set changed, right? If I change it, I'm not really doing that here. If I remove it, I'm saying, hey, remove it from here and notify the data set change. And then if I move it within the list, I'm also saying, hey, notify of what has been changed in there. And so the key concept just to understand is that like a value event listener is listening for the value of a reference, the child event listener is listening for changes in the children of that reference. And again, we look over here to see presidents has different children references. So hopefully that makes a little bit more sense. All right, let's look now back at this recycler view. Let's get through this recycler view. And so comparing the child event listener to the value event listener, we see here, right, from before, when you're reading from a particular reference, right, like person, and we're looking for just the value of that person, right, I say add a value event listener, and I say new value event listener. And the only two methods there are on data changed and on canceled, saying, hey, if the data changes, let me know. And if it's canceled, I'll load up a toast saying what happened. If I come down to the child event listener, right, instead of having, again, the value event listener, I have a child event listener. And so instead of listening for the value, right, I'm listening for the children. And here are the methods that you have to implement for those children. All right, I have this method here for adding randomly to the recycler or a random president. We talked about this code a little bit. The key thing here, however, is that rather than adding it to an array list, right, I'm adding it to user reference.child presidents, right? So I'm going, hey, go to this president's reference, push a new child, right, of a random value, which is why in our console, we can see that each of these children references is a completely random ID for the reference. And then I'm saying, hey, set the value of that new reference to be the new president, whoever, what was declared up here and then initialized in one of these if else statements. Okay, the GitHub link for all that code is there, so please feel free to download it and play with it and remix it as you wish. Okay, I have one more thing to go over, and then I'm hoping to give you the rest of this time to work on your final projects. Okay, Firebase loading images. I think I'm just going to create a video for this so that I can, so that it's easier for you guys to see how this works. But I'm going to go over it briefly. I'm going to try to do this in 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, so we're going to go over the code. Let me put it in present mode for loading images in Firebase. They're basically, to put an image in Firebase, you're going to have to convert the image into a string, right? And so we have this wonderful method that I have here. It's coming from this imageutil.java class called string bitmap to byte string. Sorry, bitmap to byte string. It's essentially what it does is it takes a bitmap, which is a map is just like, I guess we can think of it as a two-dimensional thing and encoded with bits, right, for your picture. And we're converting that into a byte string, which is just a string that is going to be representative of that bitmap. And so we can see that the main argument or the parameter is going to be a bitmap here, and then the return value is going to be a string. We don't have to understand what's going on in here. All we need to know is that, hey, whatever we put into this method, we take a bitmap and we return a string. Then we want to convert it back the other way, byte string to bitmap, right? We put in a string, specifically a byte string, and we get back this bitmap. And then the method is going to be right here for that. The key methods for the image views you need to know is to set image bitmap, right? So when you go from byte string back to bitmap, what are you going to do with that bitmap? You put it in an image view. And so we have this set image bitmap. And then for in order to get the bitmap to convert it into a byte string, right, we go image view dot get drawable dot get bitmap, right? And we're going to cast this get bitmap to bitmap drawable because that is the only class that has this get bitmap method. All right, and so what I'm going to do right now is I have an example of the code here in the main activity, but I'm going to show you an example in real life. And so if I come over here and I close out this project, can you guys still see my screen? Yeah, awesome, thank you. Let's see. In my final project for when I took this class, Justify, which I've shown you guys a couple times, it's gonna build. I have an option for how to add an inquiry, right? So here in inquiries, my recycler view has text and an image, right? And each of these images is different, right? So how do I get these different images to load up into here? How is that possible? Well, up in the action bar, we have a button called add inquiry, right? And so we can add the question like la 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 lol, why not? And then I can go here to say add an image, right? Now, unfortunately, this isn't the device that I used, and so I don't know if there are pictures here. There are no pictures here, so I can't add them here. I'm using the start activity for result where it opens up the camera. Let's see. If I go to no, I don't have my drive. Do I have a gallery? Oh, wait, let's see. Haha. Okay, cool. And so here are my images. Voila. And so I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna grab this image right here. And so I'm gonna say LOLOL as my thing. And so I'm going to click add inquiry. And so now when I go to inquiries, I have this LOLOL with the image coming up right here. Now that's all going to be stored in Firebase. So if I come over to my Justify Firebase, right? I see this brand new thing popping up in green. Wait, nope, that's not it. Nope, that's not that. Did I just get rid of my thing? No, okay, green doesn't mean anything, my bad. Let's see. It should say LOLOL for the question. I'm looking for it. I'm looking, am I not in the right account maybe? This may not have worked as well as I thought it would. I thought if I put it here, how does exercise keep you healthy? Who is the greatest athlete? Maybe I'm just not in the right thing. Can students improve their learning? How does exercise keep you healthy? No, I am in the right thing, but for some reason it didn't work properly. All right, so now if I go to inquiries, it's still here. All right, I'm gonna, wait, no, is it still there? No, it is still there. Okay, give me 1 second, you guys. If it doesn't load up, it's okay because I can still get my point across. I'm just getting a little flabbergasted at the moment. All right, let's see. Oh, hopefully now it's just not loading at all. Did I just play myself? Oh no. Okay, they're all here, they're all there. And ha, voila, I have my LOLOL for my thing right here. Now notice that for the photo, I have this long, very, very long string, right? And so this is gonna be my byte string. The idea again being that I'm taking this image, I'm converting it to a byte string to store in the database. And then when I wanna load it, I bring it back up and I make it back into a bitmap with that method. And so I'm gonna show you these methods in the app. So if we go to add inquiry, which is already open, and I go to this add inquiry. No. What am I looking for? Yes, add inquiry. This when I click add inquiry, that's where I'm going to be adding the image into the database, right? I'm saying, okay, if question edit text, let me zoom in here, minimize this. I say, if this is empty, you like ask for a question, right? If the image is null, then I'm like, okay, the image is null. But if the image is not null, I'm saying, hey, string byte string. I say, hey, byte string, bitmap to byte string, right? I call in this method that I've already declared and written up here. And I go, hey, imageview.getDrawable.getBitmap. And notice again that I'm saying bitmap drawable. I'm casting this whole thing to be a bitmap drawable because I need to know, I need it to be there. If I get rid of this, this method is not recognized. It's going, who is this get bitmap method? So that's why I have there this casting of the bitmap drawable. Then I can go, okay, cool. Inquiry equals new inquiry. I say get the question, edit text, get text to string for that, and then byte string. I'm just taking that byte string and I'm gonna say, okay, cool, store that into the Firebase, right? I see that familiar with our familiar push, and then set value.
Nigel, we've got a question in the chat.
Let me stop sharing. And the chat question is, why do you need to convert the image to a string? Great question. Firebase cannot store images. The only way Firebase can store an image is to convert it into a string. Hopefully that answers your question. All right, I'm gonna continue. Share my desktop. Okay, and so now the question is when I want to read that image. So here I'm going to be looking at that image in the, I believe, the inquiry view holder, because that's where the image is. Remember, it's in that card view. And so when I go, hey, when I want to bind my view holder with the information in the card view, so the information in from the database with the card view, I'm saying, hey, inquiry question view, set text to get the question, and then I'm saying, hey, for the photo, if there is, if the photo is not known, I say inquiry field of view dot set image bitmap, right? So remember, I have to go to the image view and go, okay, I want to set this image view to be to a specific bitmap. But then I have to go, okay, cool, byte string to bitmap inquiry dot get photo. And so get photo here is a method that's calling to get that byte string, and then we're going to convert that byte string back into a bitmap, and then we're going to set the image bitmap to the inquiry photo view. Okay, I'm gonna pause there for now, just because I think I'm gonna have to review this again next week. I think I'm just gonna make a short video showing how that works. But I just wanted to introduce this idea so that you're familiar with how to store images in Firebase. Okay, I think I'm done. Okay, let me go back to the slides. Slide. Where are you, slides? Okay. If I come over here to week 11, I need to come and share my screen. Share my screen. Okay, share my screen. Okay. So that was that. All right, tab view. I am not going to go over tab view, but there is a resource here with a 15-minute video for how to do a tab view, and with some of the code already set up for you here to copy and paste into your main activity. Okay, so that it's already kind of done for you and you can fill it in accordingly. All right, for those of you who want to include tab view in your project. Okay, I also have, what I want to do is have us update. Okay, so before I go to the update, I have the resources for authentication, for Recycler View with Firebase, and then for loading images with Firebase, as well as a document for creating tab activities. Just thought I'd put this all in one slide so that it's easily accessed. And so we're gonna get to work in a minute and get working on our projects. But what I wanna do, basically, I wanna remind you of your goals you set for this week. I'm gonna come around from group to group to see how you guys have been working on your goals for this week. And then before the end of today's class, I want you guys to set goals for next week. So remember that there is no in-class activity, there is no take-home lesson, right? You have 2 weeks to complete all of your other assignments, but I do want you guys to work on your projects. So while 3 weeks sounds like a lot of time, all of a sudden it's 2 weeks and it's 1 week and then it's 2 days and you're like, ah! So let's just get this done as much as we can. So I'm gonna come around from group to group and I'm gonna ask you guys to fill this out. Last but not least, please share your final project rubric here so that as I come from group to group, I can get a feel for what you're doing for your project. And so here I'm asking for you to submit a Google document with your final project rubric. This should already be completed, so I'll talk to you guys in each of your groups, but please get that loaded up here now, okay? And so I'm going to stop sharing and get ready to put you guys in your pairs to work on your final projects. So it looks like everybody's on a good track for working on their projects. What I'm gonna ask is for everybody to please fill out the goals document for next week, right? Because this is for me, but it's also for you. A big part of this is just me helping to hold you guys accountable so that you guys can just be moving forward. Because again, like I said before, it sounds like, oh, we got 3 weeks, it's so much time, but all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, we have 3 days. And I just wanna make sure that no one is stuck in a situation because this whole COVID is already stressful enough as it is. On top of doing the goals document, please as well turn in your final project rubric. And again, remember that it is subject to change. It's not necessarily that once you turn it in, that's it forever. I just want to be able to make sure I can look through your projects and have a feel for what the things you guys are trying to accomplish. So please complete that. Again, the take-home lessons and the in-class assignments, everything due April 27th. So there's 2 weeks for that. And then next week, it seems overwhelmingly that everybody would like to go over GitHub. And so I'm going to put up a video of just a simple way to share your project with your partner. And then next week, I'm going to also be downloading all of your projects from your GitHub so that I can contribute to your projects as well. And so hopefully then we'll all be GitHub connected. I've also heard that there seems to be a problem with Firebase in China. There might be a situation where there's a firewall and it's difficult to connect the app. I don't know. We're going to figure that out. But if you continue to have issues with that, just speak to me and we will figure it out in the weeks to come as well. Okay. And so that is the end of class for today. Thank you everybody for coming, especially those of you who are abroad and I don't even know what time it is, but you still made it. I really appreciate it. And just stay healthy, stay safe, and I will see you all next week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.